Hello traders and investors, I'm LA Little and this is your daily NeoTA wrap. We take a look at these markets and we're doing it from a neoclassical perspective. Each time we're asking ourselves what happened today, what does it tell us about the coming ones? We do a show 4 times a week every Monday through Thursday, broadcast at before 10 o'clock Eastern Time. It's archived on YouTube. It's under the channel LA Little. If you haven't subscribed and you want to, just reach up in the right hand corner and do so anytime I push content and you'll get a notification. As far as what did happen today, it was another day of hang and up mostly. If you look at the indexes, you got the NASDAQ and the NDX higher. You got Apple reporting after the bell tonight. Apple beat the lowered expectations. Yeah, they're losing money, and not losing money, excuse me, they're having lowered quarterly earnings, year over year comparisons. They're still making a fistful of dollars, of course. But that bar has been set so low that Apple rallies about 6% after hours, and that's going to put more juice into the NDX tomorrow. NDX, not that far away from an all-time high. It looks to me like it's going to get up there and try to hit it again. Overseas, you got the Nikkei up. You had the S&P, of course, was barely up today. And then on the other side, the DAX was up another 0.5%. Gold, silver, all those were moving up today. Dollar is down a little bit. You got the Fed tomorrow. That's going to be the big news driving it tomorrow along with Apple. And we're going to have to see where those want to take us. As far as what happened today in terms of the charts, let's take a look at them here. Here's the S&P. And so when we look at the S&P, what we have is another day of hang, basically. You've got this tight consolidation. If you go back, well, let's do it a different way. Let's look at it from this perspective, right? You get the push up, and that push up has, some good legs, right? You get a little small, tight pullback. When you get small pullbacks after big pushes, and then you actually break over, ABCD structure, you're usually going to get another big push, right? And that's exactly what took place. And now it's just this grind sideways to up, right? Slight bias to the upside, just grind, grind, grind. And as the S&P is doing this, what we're seeing is we're seeing the other indexes that had trailed, in particular the NASDAQ, the NDX, those at a little steeper of an angle as they push higher after their big push. Now these have already completed their ABCD structure, so they're starting to extend beyond that ABCD structure. And in fact, at this point, if you wanted to really take a close look at this, you actually have other ABCD structures that have formed now. And they're very steep, but they are there. For example, if I look at the NASDAQ, we can see a structure starting with this low, right? So the A to B, now the C point. That takes us into this area, right? There's a little small pullback here. And then you've got another ABCD structure extending to the top side. So you've got nested ABCD structures that were inside the larger one before it didn't quite complete. It was completed up here. And so you got another little one inside of it now, and it's grinding on up towards that one as we keep going higher. NASDAQ, NDX looks the same. You had volume pickup today. You got Apple after the bell. Going to put more juice into these indexes and try and push them higher. If we turn our attention to the Russell, right? Russell doing the same sort of thing. It was the first that completed the ABCD, A, B, C, and D. Goes sideways, consolidates. Now it's just grinding higher again. The only one that hasn't completed is the S&P. It doesn't have that much more to go. Matter of fact, let's bring it back in here. I think the S&P has another 10 points or so. About 10 points from the highs almost, 15 points maybe, to finish off its ABCD structure. Now, usually when you finish them off, what you're going to do is get some sort of consolidation at best, some sort of sideways action, and that's kind of what we're getting, although we are just grinding higher, and tomorrow it looks like we're going to get a little pop on the NDX. Tomorrow will be instructional because the Apple, if you look at Apple's chart, and we'll pull up the daily chart here to start with, if we look at Apple's chart, right, Apple had this spike high up here at the 101.89. Well, it got into it, pulled back, and then tomorrow it's going to open up over that, or at least right at it, and try to break it out. Now, if you look at Apple on a weekly, let's just flip this to a weekly. What you're going to see there is a stock that has been in consolidation mode. If it gets over this little bar, it's going to try to go for the high of the breakdown bar. and that area is about 106. So Apple can put some juice into the NDX, and so then the question is going to be, is other things going to move with Apple, or is it going to matter, right? Because for so long now, Apple has been doing this while the NDX has been doing the opposite. And so does Apple matter? Well, certainly it's not going to hurt to have Apple going higher. We'll see if it actually takes other things with it, or if those other things are already so extended it doesn't really matter at this point. And it could be the latter. Now, tomorrow we've got the Fed, and today we saw some pressure on the dollar. Let's bring up the currencies because we're going to see the Fed and then the Bank of Japan the next day, and the currencies are going to be what's in vogue. Now, the Japanese currency, of course, expecting more loosening, more QE, more negative rates in its structure. I'm going to bring over the weekly. And so you've had this big push up. The question is this going to pull back now? If you look at the big bar where the volume was, that was back on April 4th. And then if you look at the Brexit news, that Brexit news was this breakout, actually just an extension it looks like, so it probably really wasn't much on Brexit. Question to me, in my mind is, can this start to turn and head lower again, or is it going to hang up here? Are they just not going to believe that, are they going to just believe that the Bank of Japan has no power anymore? Is the emperor without clothes at this point? I don't know what they're going to believe, but I believe whatever happens, it's going to be instructional to see if this gets back into these bars and actually tries to get to the lows. If you look on the charts here, of course, that's where we're showing support on our automatic drawing of support and resistance zones on the TA Today charts. And so, I would expect that's the area it's going to try to shoot to. If so, right, that's going to put juice into the Japanese equities. If we look at the euro is going to be the opposite of the dollar, of course. Euro's down here plunging or plumbing these lows. It's right at them, hasn't been able to really break down in any larger way yet. Let's see what the dollar looks like. The dollar has been going the opposite and trying to push higher. Now, if the yen starts coming down, that's going to push the dollar up on the yen. If the euro continues to break lower, then the dollar is going to get some juice. If the dollar gets juice, that's going to make it harder for things like gold and commodities. And so, this is all fitting together. We're going to have to see what this dollar does off the Fed news. If the Fed is, going to say we're not going to do anything, then the dollar is going to be under a little pressure. If the Fed's going to say, it's maybe this market can hold up by itself, then that's going to put a little pressure on equities as the dollar starts to move higher. I think the dollar trade tomorrow, or the dollar tell, is going to be a big tell both tomorrow and Thursday. Bonds trying to push higher, still stuck on the little push. Can't really get anything going yet. And one thing that's been happening with the big gains in the equities is we're starting to see the emerging markets try and take off. Consolidation up here. I think the dollar currency story is going to be the big deal here as well tomorrow. So that's the way it looks tonight. Where are we? Well, we're the same place we've been for 2 weeks, and that is we got a slight upward bias, an extended market that doesn't want to come back. And there's still no signs that I can see that it is going to come back at this point. It looks to me like we're going to get another day of grind to the top side, with Apple maybe give us some juice. When we get a reversal, then we're going to know we're going to get something down. But right now, you don't have it. You don't have anything to the downside. If anything, you could say, oh, we got a little bit more volume today and we push lower. But, it's just a little tight range up there. It doesn't mean anything at this point. Let's see a clean failure before we jump to any conclusions about a market that just doesn't want to come in. That's it for tonight. Tell a friend, tell two. I'm LA. This is and was your daily NeoTA wrap. Have a great night, and I'll see you next time. Good night.